So over the weekend, actually ever since Tuesday night, I spent the majority of my time playing the Destiny 2 beta. It's got some good, it's got some bad, and it's got some things that left me scratching my head. The beta consists of 3 main phases: the story mission, the strike, inverted Spire, and the Crucible. I'll break down my thoughts of each of these sections, as well as address some of the overall solid efforts and criticisms I found and heard while playing the beta. Let's start with the story, Homecoming, the first story mission of Destiny. It sets the stage and the narrative of D2. While D1 focused a ton on world building and NPC depth, D2 has the freedom to focus specifically on a narrative, and this first mission does just that. First thing I notice is the world. The level of detail offers a stark difference in terms of lighting, depth, and atmosphere not really seen in the original Destiny. It's definitely an upgrade. Something as mundane as rain shimmering due to light refractions in the night sky really feels impressive. This new engine really flexes the muscles of the game and shows a ton of promise for the game. I'm still disappointed by my silent protagonist. I suppose it's a hard problem to solve, how to interject personality into your custom creation. I'm sure Bungie has their reasons, but a bit of acknowledgement from my character that, hey, everything is burning, rather than just having my ghost induce panic on my behalf, would be nice to connect me to the conflict more. But there is a positive. The NPCs actually do stuff. Kate 6 greets you, casually slays 3 Cabals and moves on with his life. Zavala barks orders while offering tactical support as you fend off a barrage of enemies. Ikora dumpsters a whole squad of Cabal right in front of your eyes like Power Girl, but better. It feels interactive. They feel powerful. These characters we've learned through quips and small sequences now feel a part of the story of being a guardian, of returning our light. To add to that sense of connection, of struggle and conflict, there is seamless multiplayer integration. When defending the tower, other guardians show up. Real players, not NPCs or AI bots. Supers flying everywhere, tactical barriers, healing rifts, orbs of light. Destiny has never had this before, and I hope more of this integration shows up during the story. It adds to the realism of it all, and that all of us are fighting to protect our home. From there, we assume the role of the Chosen One, and this sequence is good. Level is well paced, a good mix of majors, and even an ultra. As I said before, the design and art direction makes huge strides with the power of this engine. Nothing is second best. We end the story mission by basically falling to our death, and a fade to the title screen. This sets up the story well for the rest of the campaign. It reminded me of the initial Taken King mission, via setup and delivery. If anything, this campaign is a huge step up from the initial Destiny launch campaign, one people will really enjoy. All 3 classes, each with 2 revamped subclasses, should be at launch for D2. Speculation suggests that the Taken King subclasses will be there at launch, but we have no idea for now. Let's start with Warlock, my main class in the original Destiny, and most likely the class I'll be maining when it starts in D2. The Dawnblade is a better Sunsinger, hands down. It still retains some common elements found in Sunsinger, but the difference in playstyle helps cement this as a great class for Warlocks. The super feels great, albeit a tad weak. The long travel times for each sword swing requires a good amount of initial prediction for PvP, where to literally close the gap hard and chase down the enemy in order to increase the odds of getting a kill. The tactical dodge, stolen from Titans of course, makes it fairly easy to chase down opponents due to the slower pace of PvP. I'm also split on Voidwalker. There are design decisions. They make me feel as if steps have been taken to neuter the class. However, I can see the potential Voidwalker has in order to shift engagements in his or her favor. The grenade charge up is a cool mechanic, and due to how infrequent we get supers in PvP and PvE, it brings more benefit to engagements. Problem is, grenades are infrequent, and you should only be using them when you're really ready to engage. The super is an interesting change as well. Really aggressive tracking, like truth levels of tracking. But unless you're blindsided by it, it can feel way too easy to outrun and evade. And by the time the super clips a wall or is shot down by its caster, you can be long gone for it to do anything meaningful. However, Voidwalkers have blink, and that's huge. The tactical advantage Blink brings you in gunfights, especially on console, can set up some massive kill streaks. Blink Shoddy is back, and it's here to stay. Blink alone kept me on the Warlock, using it to get the drop on enemies, slipping and ducking through cover. The HUD fade from Blink Recovery isn't too bad, although you do notice its length as you get ready to face the enemy. In all, Voidwalker has some fairly weak individual elements, but with good coordination can make a really solid argument for play. Finally, the Warlock's class ability is the Rift, and the class ability itself brings a good amount of synergy in PvE and some tactical advantage in PvP. Healing Rifts can keep you up just long enough to sustain a team fight for the double trade, provided you have the gun skill and aren't being focused. Empowering Rifts are solid for increasing DPS on PvE encounters for boss burning, as well as asserting dominance down contested chokes when the enemy makes a push. The viability of the Rift is amplified with the Rally Barricade. Ducking to reload automatically, popping out of cover to shoot, rinse and repeat. It's a great addition to class synergy, cementing the roles on the team and gives us potential for great team play, especially in stuff like strikes and raids. The Gunslinger maintains most of the kit they had in the OG Destiny. Trip Mines, Chain of Woe, Golden Gun are all back, but with some interesting tweaks that add for class synergy. During a PvP match, I was able to activate Chain of Woe fairly regularly when over the comms my fire teammate said in shock, "Why do I have Chain of Woe activated?" Turns out when you activate Chain of Woe, it procs for your entire fire team. This, in combination with smaller tweaks to Gunslinger, like the fact that it can shoot 6 times rather than 3 via a perk, keeps it relatively the same, but offers more utility to the class for more team play. But then we come to Arcstrider, and man, this class is split. I spent some time browsing forums, Reddit, and watching various YouTube videos and Twitch streams to gauge the opinion of Arcstrider. This rework of Blade Dancer has positive essays, but the super is more nuanced than what I was expecting. The beautiful thing about most super's abilities in Destiny is their easy pick up and play nature. You press a couple of buttons and you can basically figure out the basics of the class. It's a little different with Arcstrider. There's actually some real depth. Different button combinations can lead to various combos with this death, allowing for some majestic pursuits against some sluggish guardians. Most of the kit still remains the same in regards to their grenades, melee, and jump. Blink was removed from the class in favor of more traditional jump, but that's fine I suppose. The class ability, Dodge, solidifies Destiny's shadestep as a defining trait of the Hunter, buffing it with some added utility. Reloading your drawn gun continues optimal DPS in PvE, or rolling out of harm's way rebuffs your melee. The issue I see brought up with this trait is that unlike the Warlock or Hunter, it basically offers utility just for the Hunter, which is a valid argument. But what it also does is ask the question why. Bungie is a smart studio, filled with incredibly talented minds, and trying to figure out the path of design decisions that has resulted in this more selfish ability has left me, and many other players, scratching their heads in confusion. Honestly, I don't have an opinion. The ability just kind of exists as a small utility in more of a DPS-oriented class, a class more designed for ad control with Arcstrider, at least until the return of Stormcaller, or more boss damage with Gunslinger. The last thing I expect it to be is a hindrance on raids, as the utility is less on group survival and more on killing all the things, no matter what. The Striker Titan has had the super reworked into a roaming super, and that is both incredibly fun and very scary. To be honest, all of the Titan supers have now roaming capabilities, if we are to expect the Sunbreaker on launch. Shoulder Charge is already a great ability, and using that unlimited pursuit mechanic to rip through minions of the darkness or an enemy team is terrifyingly powerful. The ability to perform multiple smashes makes the Titan more dominant force on a battlefield. Just look at him coming towards you, his arms jacked, fists clenched, a burning look in his eyes, the way he or she throws himself into the air to slam you out of existence, Hulk smash style. The overall popularity of Titans will definitely increase as this game picks up steam. The Sentinel is a mobile version of the Defender Titan, a reworked aimed for a more aggressive playstyle, which is funny because the game is technically slower. Most of the existing Defender Titan's abilities are retained, but the real star of the show is the new shield. Reminiscent of the relic in the infamous Vault of Glass, the Sentinel shield becomes a new pillar of the Void Titan. Able to be thrown once, Captain America style, designed for a mobile defensive block, as well as an effective ad clearing tool, it's a welcome addition to the already strong arsenal of the former defender. I'd even go as far to say that the new Sentinel is so potent, it's the scariest class to fight against in the Crucible. Finally, the class ability. Titans protected the wall of the last city in the first game, and now they are the wall. There are two walls in Destiny 2, the Towering Barricade and the Rally Barricade. One provides a massive defensive benefit at the cost of no retaliation, and the other provides a nice balance of aggression and defensive playstyles. I found myself using the Towering Barricade in situations where cover was most desired or when a teammate has fallen. When you're surrounded by ads or other enemy players, it gives you just enough time and protection to deal with the threat by falling back or tipping the scales into your favor. The Rallying Barricade is one of my favorite to use in PvE. Its instant reload mechanic pairs well with the Titan Exotic Sweet Business to offer disgusting amounts of DPS. The most utility I found with it was when I was paired with two Warlocks doing a strike. Deploying a Rally Barricade, dropping both types of rifts, we held our ground as we fought off hordes of enemies, barely fighting off death. The Wall of the Titan is definitely the most well thought out ability of the three. Kinetic, energy, and power weapons replaced the Destiny 1 system of primary, secondary, and heavy, and this was met with eyes cocked, heads tilted, and question marks abound. Why change the system? How will this affect the game as a whole? Will the players be able to adjust and come together? I'll assume you're familiar with the basics of kinetic versus energy, as well as what classifies as power weapons in D2, and instead, get into the rant. The thing about the first loadout setup in D1 was that it felt designed for PvE first and PvP second. Primary weapon is used for the majority of engagements and enemy fodder, special is used for off targets and majors, and heavy is used for large boss damage, quick ad removal, and reversing overwhelming situations. It made sense with the design of the game. Each had their role in the PvE gameplay loop. Where it struggled was PvP. Special weapons, these high-powered killing machines, became quite strong, especially under the right hands. They could one-shot kill, they can upset games, and cause massive reversals in gunfights. Hell, some are just incredibly cheesy and overpowered, and this fluxed with the balance of the game. People used specials as primaries. There was less gun skill involved, and more about the enemy placement and map knowledge. Why face off in a 1v1 down a hallway where you can just bait your opponent to a place where you have the advantage, go on a tear by flanking, and single-handedly disrupting a match? This screamed balance from players alike. And with the PvE scene dying and the PvP scene taking up the majority of player activity, as well as frustrations rising, this system was created. And it sucks. Here's why KEP, that's what I'm calling it now, is a lackluster fix compared to the original PSH. KEP sets up two primary weapons and one power weapon as a loadout for Guardians, two weapons of the same class, and one slot of classes of weapons. What KEP does well is that it offers a variety for primary battles and forces the player to rely more on gun skill. Instead of using a primary weapon that excels at the range the player is comfortable engaging in, it gives users the option to engage in more ranges because some weapons perform better than others in different situations. This means I can run a pulse or a scout for medium to long range and a hand cannon or SMG for short to medium range. So I can pick off some down the main long, rush them down, and clean them up with a hand cannon or SMG. If I'm being focused, I'm not crippled by my choice of weaponry. Someone challenged me across the map, I have a primary for that. I'm getting flanked, I can back the fuck up and switch to a different primary for that engagement. The emphasis on primary weapons is great in PvP. Here's the fucking thing, this shit sucks in PvE. The initial loadout trilogy in D1 works because AI engagements complement a Guardian's loadout. But here, not so much. The argument can be made that you can apply the same rules of engagements on Minions of the Darkness, but from what I've been watching via the community and what I've been hearing and reading on Reddit, it's a redundant mode. The potential utility that energy weapons bring is only reduced to one thing: burning down elemental shields. Let's take the Shunshot for example, a solar hand cannon for the hunter. It has great DPS potential and solid stats for PvE, and it was the only gun I ran for an entire mission, as well as the inverted Spire strike. My auto rifle felt inadequate compared to the damage that the Sunshot could do, and the Sunshot was more effective at various engagements where the enemy fodder got thicker. The only time I switched weapons was when I either couldn't push them due to enemy fire, the gun being ineffective at range, or when I ran out of ammo. The system is here to stay, but it will require some intelligent mechanic design to really push the limits of keps. Just relying on burn modifiers or more shielded enemies doesn't fix the problem, it only echoes the sentiments found in year 1. I'm very glad it's not just me, but the frequency of abilities and supers in this build of the beta is laughable and poor, pushing the game into more of a space shooter vibe than what makes Destiny special. Grenades are weak in PvE and rarely effective in PvP, requiring again gun skill to finish the fight. When a scatter grenade can't kill a legionnaire in PvE D2, whereas in D1 I could wipe the floor with them, I lose that sense of might. Melees offer less utility overall. I usually find myself using a melee as a reflex and never really saw it as an advantage. Whereas in D1 I'd rush a Scion to gain my health pack, in D2 I stand a better chance of surviving by running away and shooting from behind cover. Movement and pace have been greatly reduced. Lost is the sense of speed a Titan or Warlock brings, or the agility a Hunter has from their jumps. I just hate to say it, but it has a more boots on the ground feel than ever. I'm forced to pick my fights from cover, rather than run around as a ballerina, galloping from foe to foe. As a result, I feel sluggish and restricted, which again detracts from the initial sense of power I felt in D1. Shooting is still as solid as ever, there's nothing worth changing here. The legacy of Bungie is shown through and through. Even the sound design of some of the weapons, the sunshot sound like a mini cannon stuffed into a small revolver, offers emotional feedback that makes it fun to shoot. As Destiny progressed, Bungie got more and more experimental with their weapon and sound design, and this results speaks for themselves in D2. The Nurgle PR4, a void pulse rifle by Amalon reminiscent of the PDX-45 by Suros, feels meaty and satisfying to shoot. The little glimpse we got into the world of Nessus gives us a ton to desire. Playable locations and such are supposed to be sprawling in D2, adding to an even larger sense of scale, as well as a ton of content. The length of the strike adds to the potential the world may bring. It's a beautiful location, with differentiating shades of color adding to the speculation of what the world will bring. The strike takes a good 20 to 30 minutes to complete. A well-coordinated team can probably get it done in under 18, and it's not a mindless shooting gallery. The variety the environment offers changes the dynamics of the firefights, from the semi-lush jungle near the start of the strike to the barren warfield as the Cabal drill through Nessus, ending with the intricate catacombs the Vex have weaved through time. The pace never feels bucked or boring. It's consistent with its brief periods of rest as you trudge on to the next battlefield. The environment gives away some clever mechanics designs and usage. The sheer size of the local locations allows for far greater traversal. Enclosed arenas give a sense of tension in some spaces, and even the final boss room, with just a little bit of mechanics, offers some light tension for the player to account for apart from just taking fire. I wish the mechanics were less predictable, but hey, we have to start somewhere. These elements all give us a sense of difficulty that we can come to expect from strikes. Of course, by the time we reach the end game at max light, it'll all be a cakewalk, but for now, it respects the player's skill. No longer can players simply sit and shoot. You have to manage your health, you need to respect your cooldowns, and you need to utilize your super in an effective way. Choosing to Nova Bomb minions of the darkness for orbs of light, rather than toss it at a boss for a faster run, are all choices players will subconsciously make when running strikes, and that's a good thing. The strike is good. It reminds me of another one, known as the Echo Chamber, but with less mechanics, and to be honest, I was hoping of a sense of that design in Destiny 2. Echo Chamber is very phase heavy, but it offers interesting team play, grabbing the relic, attracting aggro, and opening up windows of boss damage while having to deal with ad control. That sense of design complexity was there, but it wasn't abundant or plainly obvious. It was a safe attempt. Enemies felt more like a minor distraction than a major obstacle. The boss was challenging, but not impossible, and mechanics of an engagement can be mastered after 2 runs. To some, it'll get boring fast, losing interest and leaving it for the sake of PvP. To others, it'll be fun enough to grind out over and over and over again, for the sake of loot. There are 2 Crucible modes, Countdown and Control, available in the beta. Let's start with Countdown. Pegged as the competitive mode, with the illusion of more balanced, close games, this mode is quite fun to play, albeit a bit tense. It's also the mode that complements the new pace of the game. What feels sluggish at first actually pairs well with the map design. High ground isn't as abundant, there's tons of cover and ducking potential, and many creative ways to engage the enemy. Even reversals and comebacks are possible with the help of power ammo, although the fusion rifle feels a bit nasty in terms of potency, being able to single-handedly wipe a team. It feels fun to play because everything clicks. The split plays, the 1v1 duels, the attack defend, the shutouts, the clutch plays, even the KEP system complements this game mode well, allowing for interesting setups in various engagement regions. I can't really see this map working in other types of game modes due to its pacing as the issue, but for Countdown, it's very well designed. Control is a different story. Set up as a more casual inclusion, it gives us the classic control we all know and love from Destiny 1, but with various tweaks. When reviewing these tweaks, it made it feel the pace of control would speed up. Only one person would need to cap, A and C are pre-capped, and power ammo spawning fairly regularly. The list goes on. In Increase it did. The pace moved, and people weren't initially ready for it, and the changes were made to the way we played. The smaller 4v4 format, the abysmal base recharge rates for grenades and melees, the weird inconsistencies of power ammo across various weapons led to the rise of the team shot. When you engage as a squad, you win as a squad. People traded way more often. Spawns were flipped all the time. Sometimes respawns dumped you right into enemy fire. More weird shifts occurred. Day 1 of the beta, everybody flocked towards B in an instant fight to the death for initial control, but people got smart and crafty, and instead pushed immediately for their opponent's pre-cap flag in a gamble to get the early lead. Most of the time this works. Other times the team was ready and waiting for the backline ambush, ready to punish. Finally, people just played this way more than Countdown, and that led to the server ELO ranking kicking in. Initially, everyone was having a blast. Pros were going on massive kill streaks, the average player was having mostly fair games, and the newbie was struggling to find their footing. 2 days later, pros were getting put into harder and harder matches due to their raw skills skyrocketing their ELO, and the rest of us were getting matched up with more players of our caliber. It's basically inevitable, especially considering the amount of time and matches put into the beta versus the average consumer, who plays it for maybe a day before making up their mind. This was an interesting beta. Served as a tech test, it offers a serious but limited glimpse of the future of Destiny 2. The presented vertical slice leaves a ton of potential and speculation on the table. It convinced most of the existing population that they'll be returning. What it has also done is verify to those who didn't stick with Destiny post-launch that it's not different enough of an experience to worth coming back to. The main point of the beta was mostly a server and matchmaking test. It held up well, albeit for the weird glitch where nothing nodes initially. Destiny 2 will sell well on console, no doubt about it. One major question I had for Destiny 2 was why? Why should I invest my time into you again for another 3 years? What did this beta do to convince me that you're worth it? Games are fleeting, ever-changing, and always breaking boundaries. Destiny broke boundaries by redefining the genre of quote-unquote console MMOs, even though those MMOs on consoles have existed for a while. I sort of figured out the answer while playing with an old friend who I brought on but fell off due to boredom as he got from grinding Destiny. He thought the beta was neat, but he can't see himself pre-ordering the game, much less buying DLC for it. He reserved the same opinions and stance that he had in D1, and maybe that's just a thing. Instead of searching for reasons to play games, we should just stop and enjoy them for what they have to offer. If a game speaks to us, defines us, and makes us who we are as gamers, then celebrate that. Maybe that's enough to convince me to continue to play Destiny. That or 4K 60 FPS on PC, finally. Thank you, Bungo.